Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to be here. Before we begin the continuation from our previous week's study, I'd like to remind everybody that our Facebook pages are being consolidated. We are on the last run. This is a couple more weeks to go, and our pages are officially going to be retired, and our one main page, World Church of Messiah USA, will be the leading page for us on Facebook, where everything, all our posts, all news, all services, all studies are going to be aired. So if you haven't followed our official page yet, World Church of Messiah USA, please make sure you do so today. Okay, please make sure you let your family and friends know. All those who have followed pages of ours with Izanome Association on them, please let everybody know that those pages are going to be closed, and World Church of Messiah USA will be the official page for us starting December 1st. So don't miss out on this opportunity. Follow now so you can stay in touch. I'd also like to thank everybody who has already joined the sponsorship program. As you all are aware, it is available on our webpage. This is a picture from the webpage. It's available there. You can click on the link for the sponsorship program. At the bottom of the page, you have the options to make the donations. Unfortunately, here on OBS, it's really hard to interact with the page itself. So even if I try to move the page around, it doesn't work very well. But at the bottom of this page where you see sponsorship program, you'll see the donation options and a custom option if you'd like to make a different monthly subscription. Please be aware that this is a monthly commitment, and it is with your commitment, with your help, that we're able to make it possible for this message to reach more and more people. So make sure that you try to get yourself subscribed as soon as possible. I apologize. We're having a little issue here with the frame rates, so the video might be a little delayed just in case. Also, I'd like to thank all those who will be participating, who will be joining the sponsorship program. It really makes a difference. We have the objective of reaching 150 families by the end of the year. We are not there yet. We are getting there, and we count on your support to make that happen. So hopefully we can reach 150 families who are willing to commit and bring this message to as many people as possible. It is through your monetary contribution that will be possible. So from now, I like to express my gratitude for all those who are willing to do. And also, I'd like to remind you that you can also help sharing this message when you shared videos, when you share the content that you are receiving. Don't just watch it and leave it at that. Press that share button, share with family, share with friends, because that makes the algorithms in Facebook and YouTube make these videos more available to more people. So not only on our page, but on our main pages, the church's main pages in Japan, please also make sure you are following, you're liking, you're sharing, and really bring that out to your loved ones, your family, and your friends. This is really, truly a message for the entire world. Let's all work together to bring this gospel of salvation to as many people as possible. Okay? So without further ado, I'd like to begin our study with the sacred oath. Sacred oath. With great fear of God, we acknowledge that the Lord God is our true Father, the one and only God. We revere Meishu Sama as the model for all humanity and as our own example to follow. Meishu Sama, who was born anew as a true child of God the Messiah, by receiving the divine will that God accomplished in heaven. We believe that Jesus Christ, who 2,000 years ago embodied the name of Messiah, the name most holy and high, is serving the Lord God in unity with Meishu-sama. And we regard the messages of Kyosho-sama, who reveals to us the will of Meishu-sama in this material world, as the sole, absolute, and irreplaceable foundation in advancing our mission here on earth. Words of prayer. God, I acknowledge that you are alive. Within me, you are alive. I thank you for nurturing me to be newly born as your child. May this blessing be shared with all. In the name of Messiah, which is one with Meishu-sama, I surrender myself to you. Please use me as you wish. Thank you so much. This week I chose a very good Instagram post. So they're all great, to be honest. So I chose this one for our study today. It was shared in Masaki-sama's greeting on May 1st, 2021. And in that message, Masaki-sama shares the following. He said, no matter what happens, I want to be united with Meishu-sama. No matter what the price, I want to live in the life and love of God that Meishu-sama taught me. Masaki-sama. So this is on the official Instagram post at World Church of Messiah. If you haven't liked it yet, if you haven't followed, please do so. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you today is due to the determination, right? To the spirit of Masaki-sama. And I believe that this is the true spirit, right? For all of us who say that we are followers of Meishu-sama, right? No matter what happens, no matter what hardship, no matter what we may go through, to have the heart, right? To have the wish to be united with Meishu-sama is above anything else, I believe. And no matter what the price, right? I want to live in the life and love of God that Meishu-sama taught me. As we are continuing our study from last week, we've been looking into the message, the greeting by Masaki-sama regarding order. Right, the title is Order, March 1st, 2021. And last week we looked into Kyosho-sama's existence, who Kyosho-sama is, right? Why it is so important for us to really understand and accept Kyosho-sama's role, right? How Meishu-sama is freely working through Kyosho-sama, and how we all actually disrespected that, did not honor that. And because of that, we have, all the situation that happened within the church. We could not truly accept why God prepared this position of Kyosho, why Meishu-sama established this, and how the divine plan is led through Kyosho-sama. Right? And without that, without Kyosho-sama, it's impossible for us to truly be united with Meishu-sama, right? To live this life that God is showing us through Meishu-sama, right? As we just saw in this hymn, right? If we want to truly follow Meishu-sama, right? We want to be ones with Meishu-sama, then there is only one way, and that's through the guidance we're receiving from Kyosho-sama. Without Kyosho-sama's permission, it's impossible for us to even be a member of this church, for us to even say that we are followers of Meishu-sama. And last week we stopped around these slides here. I just went back a couple slides so we can recap. But we were talking about the very concept that Meishu-sama is alive, right? Meishu-sama is alive and working within Kyosho-sama. It is this Kyosho-sama who says Meishu-sama is alive and working within each one of you. And then Masaki-sama continued, right? We may think this is something ordinary, and we may easily take it for granted. But the fact that Meishu Sama is alive and working within us is a grave matter. Meishu Sama, who was born anew as the Messiah, is alive and working within us. This is truly a grave matter. And, being very frank with you, very honest, for a long time, I think I used this statement and I took this statement for granted, right? Very lightly, to say the least, right? Yes, Meishu Sama is alive in me. It was the kind of thought, the kind of attitude I had. God is alive in me. But to really accept that God is alive within us, that Meishu Sama is alive within us, that this breath exists, this other breath of life is flowing through us, is something that shouldn't be taken so lightly, right? Because for us to start living and accepting that truth means that our very way of living has to change, has to reflect that. Right? I cannot utter those words and just continue living a very human-centered way of life, the way I want, the way I would like, the way it's convenient to me. Right? And today, we're going to look into how we can be most useful to this Meishu Sama that is alive within us. What does that mean, right? How to really be before Meishu Sama. Let's put it that way. And I like to continue the study from this point. So in the reading, Masak Sama continues, right? If that is true, then how can we be most useful to Meishu Sama? What is the best way to serve him? That is to become one with Meishu Sama. That is the most useful way, right? As we saw in the quote just now, right? This desire of Masak Sama to become one with Meishu Sama. Why? Because it's the most useful way also to serve Meishu Sama. For a long time, as person of seeking faith and seeking God, in the very beginning, I believe my faith was a faith that was seeking to be served by God, right? I was seeking faith and I was seeking to believe in God because I needed something for myself, or I needed a better life, better situation to improve myself in some way. Or I had some kind of conflict with my family, or, some kind of disease or illness that a loved one might be going through. And I was seeking to be served by God, right? The whole objective of faith was for God to help me in some way. But here, we see it in a whole completely different light, right? To be most useful to Meishu Sama. The best way to serve Meishu Sama. It's not Meishu Sama that's serving us. It's we who should be seeking to serve Meishu Sama, to fulfill God's will. We should be seeking to please God, right? And to do that, we need to become one with Meishu Sama. This is the most useful way. So how can we do that? How can I become one with Meishu Sama? Right? Recognizing that I'm here to serve and to become one with Meishu Sama. Masak Sama continues. In order to advance Meishu Sama's true will, there would be a limit if it were only Meishu Sama making efforts by himself. But what if there were many people who became one with Meishu Sama and his true will and advanced his divine work? Can you imagine how encouraging this would be for Meishu Sama? So we need to be one with Meishu Sama who exists within us, right? That means we have to be born anew as the Messiah, just like Meishu Sama. So yes, even though it is easy to say that Meishu Sama exists within me, this actually is a grave matter, really. the whole objective of following Meishu Sama should not be for somehow for me to be served by Meishu Sama, for my problems to be resolved by Meishu Sama, but to be able to fulfill Meishu Sama's true will, to be part of this work that God is fulfilling through Meishu Sama, advancing his divine work. It's a whole different concept, right? I have to realign my values, what I see as important, how I see why my life is here, right? I can't be seeking to have my will be done. I have to seek to be able to serve in God's will, to receive permission to serve in God's will. And to do that, Masaki Sama here is sharing, we need to be born anew as the Messiah, as Meishu Sama was, right? Because Meishu Sama was born anew as the Messiah. He's alive within us. For us to become one with him, we too must be born anew as the Messiah. Regardless of what religion, be it Christianity, be it Buddhism, the original purpose of faith is to become as close as possible to the founder one reveres, isn't it? Why have we been practicing Jorei, nature farming, or art-related activities for such a long time until today? Isn't it because we wanted to get as close as possible to Meishu Sama? I don't mean to stop here too, but this point also really caught my mind, right? My attention. The original purpose of faith is to become as close as possible to the founder one reveres, isn't it? The original purpose of faith is not for me to solve my problems. It's not for my temporary happiness, but to become as close as possible to the founder one reveres. So if Meishu Sama was born anew as the Messiah, we should be striving to do the same, is it not? What Kyoshi Sama has been teaching us is this one point. Do you want to be closer to Meishu Sama or not? In the end, that would mean, do you want to follow Meishu Sama's example and be born anew as the Messiah or not? So for all of us who say we want to follow Meishu Sama, we are followers of Meishu Sama, that's the question that's being asked of us. Do you really want to follow Meishu Sama or not? Do you want to follow his example and be born anew as the Messiah or not? So this cannot violate the teachings. What Kyoshi Sama is teaching us is for us to be one with Meishu Sama. How can this be against the teachings of Meishu Sama? Well, it can't. That is why those people needed to secretly follow and film him, to find something to attack Kyoshi Sama. If Kyoshi Sama really were in violation of the teachings, that would have to be discussed in terms of the teachings. To be born anew as the Messiah, Meishu Sama did not teach us that? Yes, he did. Kyoshi Sama is teaching us about the importance of Sonin, the importance of surrendering our thoughts to God, right? Meishu Sama did not teach us that? Yes, he did. Meishu Sama said, Jorei is not so important anymore. From now on, we enter the world of Sonin. Kyoshi Sama is teaching us that there is no reincarnation. Meishu Sama did not teach us that? Yes, he did. Meishu Sama said this is different from reincarnation. Rather, I was born anew. And aren't we trying to be one with Meishu Sama and be born anew? If so, how can we say that reincarnation exists when Meishu Sama clearly denied it? This way, what Kyosho-sama teaches can all be found in the teachings of Meisho-sama. That is why it is impossible for anyone to attack Kyosho-sama through the claim that he is against the teachings of Meisho-sama. That is why they needed to secretly follow and film Kyosho-sama in order to find something, some information to attack him and justify the ousting of Kyosho-sama. By their cowardly act of secretly following and filming Kyosho-sama, that is, by their own hands, they proved that Kyosho-sama was not against the teachings of Meisho-sama. For if Kyosho-sama was against the teachings, they would have discussed it in terms of the teachings. But because they were not able to do so, they could only expel Kyosho-sama, or so they claim, by forging a negative image against him. Kyosho-sama says, we too must be born anew as messiahs. And within us, there is the existence of Messiah. But the fact of the matter is, these sayings can also stand on their own. So depending on the person, some decide not to mention Kyosho-sama's name. They can easily say, there is the existence of the Messiah within us. Our aim is to be born anew. Sorry about that. Our aim is to be born anew as messiahs. Or because in Meisho-sama's sacred word he says, from now on, we enter the world of Sone. That means we can surrender through our Sone. Or because Meisho-sama says that it was different from reincarnation, there is no reincarnation. It is quite possible for them to say these to people without mentioning Kyosho-sama, as if it were their own realization, as if they already knew. And that is because these exist on their own in the sacred word. However, as long as there is Kyosho-sama on this earth, we have to attribute everything to the existence of Kyosho-sama. To the existence. We have to attribute everything to that existence, to Kyosho-sama. We need to say things like, this is something I learned from Kyosho-sama, or this is what Kyosho-sama is teaching. We need to utter and use the word Kyosho-sama clearly in order to attribute everything back to him. Why do we need to do this? Because in this world, there is order. Order is important, is it not? That is why. This is a very, very crucial point, I believe, for all of us, right? As we've mentioned many times in these studies too, and thanks to Masaki-sama's guidance and greetings on this, we are only allowed to hold these studies, as we saw in Nidai-sama's words, right? And Masaki-sama's messages, because of the authority of Kyosho-sama. We are only allowed to receive Meisho-sama's sacred word and understanding of those sacred words because Kyosho-sama is allowing us to do so. Right? It can't be from our own selves. In literature, all around the world, right? If you are using anything, any concept that was brought by someone, you need to attribute who that came from, right? In the schools in the US, as many of you are aware, you can actually be expelled from a school if you're not attributing where that's coming from. And this understanding that we're having, this opportunity to study, is because of Kyosho-sama. Were it not for Kyosho-sama, none of us would be here, none of us would be studying, none of us would be receiving Meisho-sama's sacred word with this understanding. So, people might say it's important to surrender. People might say we're here to be born anew, right? But without attributing and making sure to say where that information is coming from, basically it's the same as theft. Theft, right? We're just taking that and using it as our own. and totally out of order, right? Followers of Meishu Sama need to obey the order of this material world. What is that order? First, there is Kyoshu Sama, who receives the will of Meishu Sama. And then there are us, who come after Kyoshu Sama. You must know that there is also the order of the heavenly world. What is that order? To put it simply, it is the order in which God reigns over everything. It is God who possesses all knowledge, power, authority, and breath. He possesses everything. What can we do? Nothing but to prostrate ourselves before Him. God is the source of everything. We have no other choice but to prostrate ourselves before Him. You may want to say that I am doing this and that I am doing my best on earth. But you know what? If God takes away your breath, that's going to be the end of story. Isn't that right? You may want to say, I know this and that, but if God takes away all the knowledge and wisdom you have, that will be it, won't it? We lose everything. In a way, right? It's very scary to think in these terms, but it's so true. In the most simplest things in our daily lives, we can see that that is true. I'll give you a simple example that happened to me, actually. And really, it kind of hit home even stronger right at this point. One day I was sitting down for, I think it was dinner, and I was eating. And as I was eating, all of a sudden, I couldn't swallow. My throat just closed. No matter how hard I tried, right? It was there. And then it became hard to breathe. Something so simple as swallowing a piece of food. We take for granted and we think we're the ones doing. Right? Our very breath. We think it just naturally occurs and we take it for granted that we're being allowed to receive that breath. If in the littlest things like that, we can't recognize that without God's permission, we can't do anything. How arrogant we became to think that we're the ones thinking, we're the ones with knowledge, we're the ones with wisdom, we're the ones doing, we're the ones creating. You know, we're really looking at it from this angle, so clear as to what Kyoshu is saying, that we took possession of everything that belongs to God. We took possession of the very consciousness of God and have used it as our own. But if God so wills it, today, as Masaku-sama is saying here, right, we can forget everything. You can just wake up, total amnesia. Right? Just stop functioning. Stop your cognitive understanding. You know, the simplest things. Every action, everything that happens, there's so much work involved. And we take it for granted. We take for granted that God is making this happen all the time, every moment, every second. Masaku-sama continues, right? That is why I'm saying that we have no other choice but to prostrate ourselves before God. Even when we come to know something, we must say, God, it was from you that I received this knowledge. When gratitude wells up within our hearts, God, this gratitude I feel was from you. When we do something of great power, we should say, God, this power is from you. We must attribute everything to God in this way. Isn't that right? So I believe it is necessary to go through training, discipline in this material world. That is to say, everything follows the law of spiritual preceding the physical. Therefore, the material world follows the order of the heavenly world. Of course, I am not saying that Kyoshu-sama is God. That's not it. I am saying that in this material world, there is a strict order. And because we are taught by Kyoshu-sama on various matters in this material world, it is important to attribute all those matters to Kyoshu-sama. We can say, it was Kyoshu-sama who taught me about this. For after we pass on, when we go to the heavenly world, we must be able to properly serve God. Of course, we are serving God now too, but we must be able to serve God in the truest sense. That is why we are being made to practice, so to speak, in this world of form. We are being trained and disciplined to attribute everything to the central existence. It is a completely different way of being, wouldn't you agree? A completely different way of living. A truly God-centered way of living. To be very honest, I myself am very far from this. Many times I don't attribute, as I should, everything to God. Everything I'm learning back to Kyoshu-sama. And I'm at fault at that and need to repent for that. But I'm also so grateful because I'm being allowed to know this truth, being allowed to serve, aware of this truth. And I must do my best to fulfill and correspond to that wish of God. If we ignore this order, if we act as if we ourselves realize all the various matters that Kyoshu-sama taught us, or try to take the credit, and if we don't attribute these things back to Kyoshu-sama, when we go to heaven, I think God will say to us, you must start over from scratch. Pretty strict, huh? But it's the truth, right? The whole purpose is we're here learning to do this. If we don't do it, then we're not really fulfilling what we're here for. Kyoshu-sama is here in this material world. So I believe it means we are being trained and disciplined by God. Okay? Meiji-sama talks about the holy seat of Kyoshu was established to lead the divine plan. Right? It's a way for God to manifest through this physical world. We are being disciplined in this way. And how blessed we are to have Kyoshu-sama so close. How blessed we are to be receiving Kyoshu-sama's guidance. Truly, I feel so much more alive. True joy to be able to share what I'm learning from Kyoshu-sama. Right? What I'm being allowed to perceive. And what a different world it is once we are aware of these truths. Surely, I realize that regarding the various matters that Kyoshu-sama talks about, there are things we understand and things that we don't. Right? I believe even in the messages that we're reading, there are parts that we might say, I don't understand, I don't get it. For example, at the beginning of the spring service, not too long ago, regarding the new church symbol, Kyoshu-sama said that this symbol lives within us. and it is engraved within us. Do you know what that means? It can't be understood easily. After all, it cannot be seen. We may be asking ourselves, where is it engraved? Or, what does it mean for the symbol to be alive within us? Now, what if, for example, Meishu Sama were directly facing us and were to say, the symbol that I created is engraved within you. It is alive. What else can we say but, yes, thank you, I will receive this. So, when it comes to Kyosho Sama saying this rather than Meishu Sama, you may feel as if there's a cushion. You may doubt, wondering whether what he said is following Meishu Sama's sacred word, or coming up with many excuses. You may say you cannot accept as such. If you do so, it would be the same as what happens in this time's church purification. Rather than Kyosho Sama's guidelines, if you make your own guidelines superior and base various judgments on that, you'll end up being the same as those who claim to have expelled Kyosho Sama. Unfortunately, for a long time, I did that as well. And I shared that with many of you, right? And it's a feeling that I must repent before Kyosho Sama and before God. For a long time, I separated the two. I saw Kyosho Sama as the man, right? The leader of the church, but I could not see Meishu Sama living and breathing alive through Kyosho Sama. I couldn't see Meishu Sama expressing God's will through Kyosho Sama. I separated, and questions welled up within me, right? Is this really from Meishu Sama's sacred word? And later on, seeing how far off I was, how I was judging, these very presumptuous, very, arrogant postures of mine. It was truly embarrassing, right? Because today we can see that there is no separation. It is one sacred word, one message. And thanks to Kyosho Sama's guidance, love, patience, we've been able to reach this point. But for a long time, when I heard something, I couldn't accept that. So I believe I am responsible for this purification that happened within the church as well. Right? That those acts had to happen for me to wake up to my true posture and attitude that I had toward God, toward Meishu Sama, toward Kyosho Sama. I was not seeing God alive or Meishu Sama alive. I was seeing my priorities, what I thought was right, what I thought I understood. Masaki Sama continues, don't get me wrong. Of course, it is fine to think various things. But more than anything, what is important is our attitude toward what Kyosho Sama says. And that is, I will receive it and thank you. That is to say, if we are able to unconditionally accept what Meishu Sama says to us directly, and if we believe that Kyosho Sama's works on this earth, that Kyosho Sama works on this earth as a representative of Meishu Sama right now, and that Meishu Sama is alive and working within Kyosho Sama, then when Kyosho Sama says that the new church symbol is alive and engraved within us, there is nothing else for us to say but, yes, I will receive this. Isn't that right? Now, you may be saying to yourself, got it. Our duty as followers of Meishu Sama is to become one with Meishu Sama. It is to be born anew as messiahs, following him as our own example. We may think that if we walk this path, we will be able to fulfill our role. But it's not that simple. That is to say, there is one more grave issue left. That is the existence of Jesus Christ. If we ignore this, we cannot go forward. If we look at the whole world, many people, not only Christians, recognize Jesus Christ as the Messiah. So, if we are to walk the path of becoming one with Meishu Sama, the path of being born anew as the Messiah, eventually we will run into the issue of Jesus' existence. What do we do with it? So at this point, I would like to pause here, and we'll continue on this next very important issue next week on our study, next week in conclusion to this message. But recognizing this order, right? Let's seek to, at least I'm seeking to follow, to recognize my posture up to now, right? Repent and seek to truly be one with Meishu Sama, who is alive within me, right? In order to truly serve Meishu Sama, the true reason why I'm here, right? No longer a faith of where I need to be served, or a faith where, my priorities, my guidelines should be the base to judge everything, but to follow God's true will, God's true priority that we are being taught through Kirsch Sama. So thank you so much for participating with us today, and I look forward to continuing our study next week on this very important issue of the existence of Jesus Christ. Okay? Thank you so much, and may all glory, may all honor be returned to God always.